Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hell. Preachers don't preach it anymore. One preacher said on one occasion, I don't like to upset people. You don't like to upset people. They're walking off the edge of a cliff. You don't like to upset. Preachers don't want to preach it anymore. Christians hardly believe it anymore. You just need to know that there are a lot of theologians that no longer believe in the doctrine of hell. I do. We do as a church. And the world just doesn't accept it anymore. I bet by now you're thinking, oh, I should have come to church another day. I should have logged in another day. I nearly didn't log in. I'll wait till next week when he will preach on love. You need this to appreciate that love, or else that love is just bubble gum and sweets. But when you get this, every word, every sentence in those songs that you glibly sing, they end up meaning so much. And then out of the goodness of that joy, you will live life and you'll be amazing. Even when things crumble around you, you have a joy unspeakable, full of glory inside. Because this world is not your home. So you need to know these things. The Bible talks about it. Jesus taught us a lot about hell. Therefore, we're to take it seriously. When it comes to the issue of hell, the Old Testament uses the word the Lord Sheol. It's actually hardly mentioned a whole lot there. If you have a moment, go to Job chapter 18, you'll see a poetic, picturesque way that it describes hell. It's pretty dooming and damning. In the New Testament, the word is Hades. Jesus also used the word Gehenna. And Jesus, listen, most of the things we know about hell come from the mouth of Jesus Christ. And he spoke about it so many times. In fact, I read someplace someone wrote that it looks like Jesus spoke about it about 30-something times. He spoke about and referenced hell. Think about that. Well, you think in Matthew chapter 25, when he's talking about the judgment day, he says, the Son of Man, when he's in glory, that he will separate people into two sections. He will separate it as a shepherd separates the goats. He will have the sheep unto his right. He will have the goats unto his left. And then he will say to those on the right, come, enter into the inheritance, you blessed ones, that has been prepared for you. And then he will say to those on the left, depart, O you who are cursed, to eternal fire. That's where it says it. Cursed to eternal fire. Jesus said that, Matthew 25. In Matthew chapter 5 and verse 22, he's talking about, if you're angry with your brother, you're liable to judgment. If anyone says, oh, Raka, you fool, he's liable to, he uses the word hell fire. In Matthew chapter 23 and verse 33, he's talking to the Pharisees. In chapter 23 of Matthew, he keeps all his harshest words for the Pharisees. Whereas where he says, you serpents and brood of vipers. How will you escape the sentence of hell? How will you escape the sentence of hell? In Mark chapter 9, verse 47, that's the one, that one scares me. If your eye causes you to sin, you know what it says, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. If any limb, just take it off. Why? It is better that you go into heaven with one limb missing than you go into hell with both hands, where there are worms that never die, he says, and there's fire that is never quenched. In Matthew chapter 13, he says, when in the parable of the weeds, the farmer sows the weeds, and then before you know it, all kinds of other things are there. Weeds. And you want to uproot, he's like, no, leave it. An enemy has done this. At the end of the age, gather them up, and then you're going to bind up all the weeds, and you're going to throw them into a fire of furnace, where there will be, this is it, the weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew chapter 22, where Jesus actually talks about the parable of the feast, the wedding feast. Go call all the people to come. They're like, no, we're not coming. Then he opens the broader, call further people to come in. And then one person sneaks in. He's like unprepared. It is not right. And it says, cast him out into the outer darkness where there will be gnashing of teeth. Matthew chapter 25, again, the parable of the talents. We talked about the slothful servant. He gave them 5 talents, 3 talents, 1 talent. And then eventually he comes back and makes assessment. And the one with 1 talent, he's done nothing. And it says, cast him and put him into outer darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. All these pictures, on and on and on. And I'm just giving you just a few samples. You could go read just the sermons of Jesus, the number of times he mentioned this. Somebody said, if you was your pastor, once a month, probably you wouldn't want to go to church. Because you know he's going to preach on hell. And it's the last thing that anybody wants to hear about. All these pictures are powerful imagery conveying an unmistakable message of the reality of the existence of hell. And that's why we read that verse this morning. That perhaps if there's one place that Jesus just gives us a kind of fuller picture, is Luke chapter 16, where he tells us a story, where he says there's a rich man, had everything, and then there's a guy called Lazarus. And he tells the whole story, and we will read it together now. You mustn't miss the fact that these are real names. In every single other of his parables, he never uses names. In this one, he mentions names. His name is Lazarus. And then he talks to other people like Abraham. Abraham is real. And so he's describing something he won't have you miss it. And the Jews around will have fully understood exactly what he's talking about. It's real names, real people, because it's a real place. So that when you combine all these verses I just read out to you, these three things you might want to write down are important. That the bad news of hell is a place of unquenchable fire. Unquenchable fire. It's a place of unceasing punishment. It's a place of unrelenting, unending torment. That's what it is. That's what hell is. And when we talk about torment there, in the book of Luke, in verse 23, the word torment is mentioned 4 times there. In verse 23, when the rich man says, oh, goodness me, I'm in this place of torment. In verse 24, he said, would you tell Lazarus to just dip his finger just the tip of his finger into water, because I'm in this place of anguish, his torment. In verse 25, Abraham actually addresses him and says to him, yeah, when you were alive, you had everything good, but now you are in this place of anguish, torment. And then in verse 28, he said, okay, would you just tell Lazarus to go back, get someone to go warn my people about this place of torment. As if all that is not enough, the Bible describes hell as a place of darkness. There will be no light. You and I live in a city where there's so much light pollution, we don't even know what darkness really is. Many years ago, I was in Gokwe, in a village in Zimbabwe, and had to walk from one place to the other. It was nighttime. It was so pitch dark. I still remember it till today because it was frightening. And you walk in this, and the person leading me, I can't see the person leading me. But he's so used to it, so he's just going. And I'm walking, and you just know you could walk off the edge of anything or into anything. I mean, so dark, you cannot see yourself. And my complexion didn't help, but that's another story. Black or white, you would not have seen yourself in that place. The Bible describes it as darkness. In the book of Numbers, actually, one of the 10 plagues that happened in Egypt, the Bible actually describes darkness was one of the plagues, and it says darkness that you could feel. The Bible describes hell as a place that is bottomless. That's important. Darkness and then bottomless. Why is that important? You've known the number of times that you've stepped off a ledge or just a step even, and the other place is lower than you imagine, and your body just jerks back. Just that reflex reaction that happens to bring you back. And you know, the older you go, it takes a while for you to recover from that thing, from that moment. Because everything inside you emotionally is upset. If you're a really old person, that happens to you, it could take you a week to just recover from the near fall. That fear of falling. The Bible describes hell as a bottomless pit. The Bible calls it a place that is hopeless. No hope. No hope. People die when they have no hope of another day. It describes it as a place that is restless. In Revelation chapter 14 and verse 11, when it talks about it, it says that a place where there is no rest. Total sadness because there is sorrow and regret. All of this happening because it's a place that is godless. God is not there. That's why you cannot be of the kinds of people who joke about hell. who say of hell, "Oh, when I get there, all my friends will be there. We'll be walking and high-fiving one another." Listen, you won't see them. You will not see them. When people are frustrated, they say, "What the hell?" They don't know what they're saying. When people are angry, they say, "Go to hell." They haven't thought through what they're saying. When people have no hope, they say, "This is hell." Except this is not hell. It's far worse than this. When Jesus tried to describe it for the people to get it, he used the word Gehenna. Gehenna was a valley, the valley of Gehenna, outside the center place of Israel, as it were, outside the city place. It was where they dumped all the rubbish. All the rubbish was dumped there. It was an incinerator. It was fire that never stopped burning because there was always rubbish. There was no shortage of rubbish to throw in there and to be burned, to be burned, to be burned. And the pagan cultures before the Israelites were there, and sadly, even a couple of kings in the book of Kings in the Old Testament carried out this horrible ritual where they would tie up children and make them walk into Gehenna. And the children will be so frightened and shaken, and there will be gnashing of teeth and shaking everywhere as they walked into a horrible, horrible, damning hell. A terrible place. A terrible place. And Jesus preached on this more times than he preached about heaven. More times than he preached about heaven. Far more times than he preached about heaven. Why? Because he doesn't want anyone to go there. Doesn't want anyone to go. And you might have questions. If you're like me, I got questions. I got a lot of questions. Such as, why did God even create such a place? And I don't know all the answers, but I do know about that one. That in Matthew chapter 25 and verse 24, Jesus describes hell as a place which was designed for Satan and his demons. Matthew chapter 25 verse 41. It was designed for the enemy, for the devil, and for his demons, for his angels. So it wasn't designed for you. The point is this: you need not go there. There will be questions such as, why would a God of love make such a place? To which I'm going to say, well, I don't know all the answers. But I do know that a God of love is also a God of justice. And a God, whenever you've been hurt or wounded or cheated, you want justice. The whole world today talks about social justice. A loving God that is not just is not a loving God. I really think for me, I've come to realize a long time ago, I can ask God questions, but I can't question God. And there's a difference. I can ask to say, I really don't understand it, but I accept you because you alone are God. But I don't question him. What I mean by that is there is a posture of the heart as if to say, for God to come give an account of himself. We need to adopt far more humility and not adopt the ways of the world. We really do. Because listen, you're not more sensitive than God. You're not more caring than God. You're not more loving than God. You're not more compassionate than God. We have a loving God who proves his love by sending his only begotten Son. What did you ever do or give up to demonstrate your love? His only Son. And that's why you and I, we need to be careful that our arrogance, which is so innate, needs to be overcome by humility which we need to learn. So I don't have all the answers, but this much I know. Like Abraham said, will the judge of all the earth not do right? He will do right. Genesis 18. Will he not do right? Genesis 18 is where God says he's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham is like, okay, what if there are 50 righteous people or 40 or 30? What if there are some righteous people? And he keeps asking God. And it's like, surely you wouldn't kill the innocent with the guilty, right? Because you're God. Because, yo, God, you wouldn't do that, would you? And he's asking, he's not forcing. And then he comes to the conclusion, would the God of all the earth not do right? It's a rhetorical question. He's basically saying, you are the judge of the whole world. You will do right. There's no judge more righteous than the God that we serve. I know that the judge of all the earth will do right. I know that God so loved the world that he gave his son. I know that he made a way of salvation. And I know, like Moses says in the book of Deuteronomy, that the secret things belong to God, but what is revealed is for you and for your children. Deuteronomy 29:29. What is revealed is for you and is for your children. And what has been revealed is a person. His name is Jesus Christ. You should be grateful for your salvation. Are you? Or are you complaining about the answer to a question, to a prayer you're praying for that hasn't yet come? You should be thankful that one day you will make heaven your home. Are you? You should rejoice that you're a Christian. And you should rejoice, listen to me, as I do, when loved ones sadly are lost, where they're gone from this earth, but they are not lost in eternity, where they go to be with the Lord. Over this year, at the outset of this year, I did not know as a pastor, I did not know how many funerals I would conduct. And they're not all Jubilee people. Sometimes they're just people related to Jubilee people. I did not know. I was planning to preach this sermon, I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when I knew the Wisdom series would come to an end. I did not know how many people this year, how many funerals I would conduct. But listen to me. I don't grieve as those who have no hope. I know that one day I will see Richard Quarting again. I will see Sylvie again. I will see Eunice again. I will see Anton again. I will see Ade's mom again. I will see Claude again. I will see Gary again. I will see Joy again. I will see Veddy again. I'll see Charlie. I'll see Pauline. I'll see Sarah again. She was a youth. I will see Ron again. I will. Why? Because God is not a man that he should lie, nor is he the son of man that he should just turn back on his word. If he promised, he will do it. The Christian, is it Spurgeon that says, he says the Christian has the center of life fixed, and the peripherals, there are difficulties. Simple, for those who are lost, they have the peripherals fixed, but the core of life is they're lost. So, Christian, don't settle for this earth. Don't settle for this world. Live your life in obedience to the God who calls you to be saved, and then calls you to be baptized, and then calls you to live for him. You do that. You do that. Because all the pep talk sermons will not save you. They just teach you how to live on a passing, fleeting, vaporing world. That's why, as hard as this sermon may be, for the Christian, it is a day of joy. That your future is settled in him. As a little child growing up, in Nigeria, we used to live in a kind of cul-de-sac, area, and all these houses, And there was one of the neighbors. I never could know which one, but this one, he used to travel a lot. Probably used to live in the West and come. And anytime he's around, he open his windows, hot country, play his record, and play all the way to get to the end, and it's and then it goes, and then it goes, and then it starts again. And he would just play this thing on repeat. And so I and the other kids, we just end up memorizing the words of the song. A song by a guy called Jim Reeves. Most of you were not even thought of when this song was written and sung. But it has the words in it, this world is not my home, and I'm just passing through. Because there are treasures laid up for me in heaven, somewhere beyond the sky, beyond the blue. Angels will call me, I'll enter into heaven. He has a line, oh Lord, I have no friend like you. And if heaven is not my home, then Lord, what will I do? But because you have saved me, the angels will call me, I will go. It's a song about heaven. How many songs? How many songs for all the songwriting we have, amazing songs we have these days? How many songs do we have about heaven? Maybe one, and for that one I'm thankful. That lets me know, no matter what happens on this earth, I have 10,000 reasons to thank the Lord. Because one day, everything comes to an end. And on that day when my breath is failing and the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Then I'll start all over again and I'll sing forevermore. That is the joy that the Christian has. So there's nowhere in the book that says a pandemic doesn't affect the Christian. It affects everybody. But we have a hope that goes beyond the grave. Can you shout amen to that? We have a hope that goes beyond the grave. And he wants you there. He wants your family there. He wants your neighbor there. He wants your friends there. He wants your enemies there.